Okay, well, welcome to the Mega Challah. This is a New Mexico Jewish Women Unity event for Israel, of course. My name is Devorah Leah. I'm from the Santa Fe Jewish Center Chabad and the Jewish Women's Circle, and we are hosting this event today together with Hadassah of Northern New Mexico. The Jewish Women's Circle of Santa Fe comes together monthly to learn, we socialize, we have some fun, we do some creative activities, and we have interesting guest speakers. And of course, we all know what Hadassah does. They run the worldwide women's organization, runs the Hadassah Hospital in Israel and does great work there. So we're really happy to be hosting this for you all today. It's a dream come true to see so many of you special women here. Women from all the different parts of all the different Jewish groups in New Mexico. So yay to you for being here, supporting this, and being part of this. We come together today to connect, to get comfort and love from each other, as the most powerful action we know we could do for Israel is to be united. So this is what we're doing here today. So take this opportunity. Get to know all the women sitting at your table. Get to know the different women around the room. Everybody has a name tag so you can see everybody's names. Take the time, say hello, get to know everybody, and hopefully you'll make some new friends here today. The Mega Challah Bake is an event that's been happening around the world, everywhere. Since October 7, it's taken on a life of its own. And as everybody's kind of searching for ways to just make a difference and get these hostages released. In Israel, these Mega Challah bakes have become very, very common. Every Thursday night, you'll find groups of women getting together and making challah together, and they usually have a family member of a hostage make the actual blessing on the challah. And this became very popular when Ori Magidish, a female soldier who was taken hostage, was released, and her mom had done exactly this right before her release. So her mother had gotten a group together and did the blessing over the challah on the Friday, and she was found and rescued on the next Wednesday. And since then, they've been doing challah bakes everywhere. So we're really happy to be able to be joining them and doing our own little part here in New Mexico, here in Santa Fe. So as women, our prayers are always, of course, important, but there are 3 times when a woman's prayer is especially significant. When we light Shabbat candles, that's one of those times. We take a few extra moments after we say the blessing, when our eyes are covered, to pray. When immersing in a mikvah is the second time, and the third is when separating the challah and pulling off a little piece as a symbol of charity. We all saw this done by our matriarch, the first Jewish woman, Sarah. She's the first one who made the challah and made the blessing over the challah. And throughout the centuries, women, Jewish women, have been doing this. So today here in Santa Fe, we join them all together, and we hope the power in this room and our prayers and our unity will bring some very good results. So, all the challah ingredients that you have in front of you, besides that they're physical ingredients and we need it in order to make challah, they also have a little spiritual significance, and we'll go through them really fast so that while you're doing this challah, you can think about it, okay? So we'll start with the first 3 ingredients that we're going to use. We're going to start with yeast. That's number 1. Yeast helps us rise to our fullest potential and the spiritual growth and the nachas we hope to see from each member of our family. So before we start, this is what we're going to do. You're going to unpack your bowl completely. There's little scissors on the table. You can open up your yeast, and the first thing you're going to do is put the yeast in the bowl. And after the yeast is in there, we're going to add 1 cup, and you have measuring cups on the table. 1 cup of warm water into your yeast. Water is life. Water is compared to Torah. Sugar is our sweetener. We pray for the sweetness we wish to see in our lives. So your bowl, your big metal bowl should have yeast, sugar, water. Take your little fork and just kind of mix it together until all the little pieces of yeast is melted into the water. Okay, after you beat the little mixture, put your fork down. We want to let it sit and we want to let it bubble, so don't keep mixing it, just mix it once. Just let it sit for a few minutes, and we're going to talk about the rest of the ingredients while our little yeast mixture bubbles. In a minute, when we begin again, we're going to start with an egg. You all have the egg is in a small little plastic cup. That is so that you can check for blood spots. Okay, not yet, but in a minute, you will open your egg. Egg is the cycle of life, as we know, life and birth. And it's interesting with eggs, the more it is cooked, the more firm it becomes. And so too, as Jews, the more we are challenged, the stronger we become. Yeah. Salt. The salt is a bit bitter, but we know a bit of salt brings out all the sweetness. So even when things are a bit bitter, sometimes some good things come out of it. And we're not doing the salt yet. We're not doing any of this yet. Just a minute. Okay, next is the oil. The oil, we know we need it to light fires, for candles. So oil is there to help us see things clearly, for some enlightenment. So we pray for this enlightenment that we'll get from the oil. And then we have the flour, which is a grain. It's the mainstay of sustenance. It's everything. Without flour, we don't get the food. Without flour or some kind of grain, we don't actually get the actual food. So flour is to remind us that God provides sustenance, livelihood. At the end of the day, we need to have that little bit of faith in God that we're going to have what we need. Okay, so we're going to be ready in 1 second. Everybody ready? Okay, so we're going to crack open our egg. Then we're going to put in the oil and the salt. Mix it together with your fork. Put in about 85-90% of the flour. And slowly you'll only add the rest if you need it, because we don't want the dough to be too heavy. So once you put in that flour and everything's in there, you're going to start kneading it with your gloved hands. You're going to keep on going until you form a perfect dough.
Look at that. Wait, I already committed, so my hands are like, Anna, can you do me a favor, please? Yes. Just pour the rest of my flour into here.
Put your flour in.
Yeah, I need a little more.
Okay, no, use your hands, honey.
I'm going to use this for you.
Put it together.
Yeah, after salt it.
I would put it into your
And slowly keep adding flour when it looks like you need it. And this is a good time to be wearing your aprons if you're not.
It'll get like that if you just keep.
When you're done, you're going to cover your bowl with your white cutting board.
And look, it all came out perfectly. I do it all myself.
You're good.
Sippy, I'm so sorry. It was a lot of information.
But once you're done and your space is clear, go get some food. Fe. And now for the next part of our program. We are really lucky to have with us Amanda Waltz, living here in Santa Fe. Amanda is originally from Florida. Her family now lives in Israel. And I'm going to let Amanda tell you about herself and share her personal story with us all. So without further ado, Amanda Waltz.
So thank you for the introduction, Devorah Leah. Thank you for putting this whole thing together. I'm very nervous speaking about this today. I've never talked about my story in front of a large group of people, but when I was asked to do it, I felt like it was pretty important. So just, bear with my nerves a little bit. So about 19 years ago, I was a senior in high school, and my parents, it was around Passover time. My family often had dinner together every night, and this was around the Passover holiday, and my parents at dinner wanted to just let me and my brother know that next year for Passover we were going to be in Israel, which was a little strange for us. We often went to Israel. My dad is Israeli and grew up there, but we usually would go in the summer times and spend the summers there, and so it was a little different, but that being said, I ended up having a very, very strong reaction kind of out of nowhere. I started screaming and crying and begging them not to go, saying something terrible was going to happen. I didn't understand what was happening to myself. My parents were like, whoa, wow, okay, so if you don't want to go, you don't have to. And so I stayed back, and the next year they went on the trip to Israel, and I was in school in Boston, and one morning I was woken up by the phone call of a parent from my high school asking me if I was okay, and I didn't know what they were talking about and said, yeah, I'm fine. They quickly got off the phone, and then, that was a little strange. I had the TV on, and it was on CNN, and on the bottom of the television there was a ticker going, and I saw it read Tel Aviv suicide bombing. And I knew that my family was doing like a 3-day trip to Tel Aviv, and that they were there at that point in time. So I quickly, maybe it was already a little weird, put 2 and 2 together, tried to get in contact with my family, and was soon alerted that something had happened. There was a suicide bombing at a restaurant that my father and my brother were eating lunch at one day. And my brother was sitting, if you've been to Israel, you know that before any store or restaurant, there's often a soldier sitting there asking you to open your bags. And there was a soldier sitting there asking people to open their bags, and he asked this one guy to open his backpack, that was the detonator for a bomb of 30 pounds of shrapnel. And my brother was sitting about 6 feet away with his back towards the bomber, and it went off, and my brother was severely injured and blown onto my father. He shielded my dad, who ended up surviving. He didn't die right away. He was taken to Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv, and after about a month of ups and downs and big roller coasters, he ended up succumbing to his injuries and dying. Sorry. And after he died, a lot of us, family members and friends, gathered in a kind of a hotel room nearby. And someone in the group said, you have to look at this. And they turned on the television, and there was a news report showing a parade in the streets of Gaza, where men, women, and children were celebrating the death of my brother with banners of his face, with captions that translated to 2 birds, 1 stone, meaning American and Jewish. And, this type of barbarism is the exact type of barbarism we're up against today, that we're seeing today, that is so indigestible to so many of us. I think a lot of, it's really natural for people to want to make sense of things that don't make sense. And to try and make meaning out of things that you really can't. I'm here to talk to you today about how we move forward after really devastating events that cripple us and have us overwhelmed with grief and sorrow. I think, whether or not we have a really personal connection, a really personal story to what's happened, we're feeling the grief. And the first step in really moving through your grief is recognizing it and allowing it to really be there. I think especially those of us who don't have really personal stories in connection to the events of October 7th, we can become channels for grief and allow the grief, the collective grief that we're all feeling, to really move through us. As a Jew, we kind of have a leg up with grief in a way. The Torah always commands us to choose life. And, as a Jewish person going through extreme emotion, extreme trauma, extreme grief, we have that North Star. Even when and that can even allow us to totally lose ourselves in our grief. In a safe way, we have that anchor always pulling us to life. So even when we're drowning and we really don't know which way is which, you can trust that you still have that. So again, the way we move through this is first allowing it through our bodies and feeling it, really feeling it. And then once we allow that space for it to be there, our bodies can start, our nervous systems can start to relax a little bit and feel safer and safer. Just allowing emotions to be there allows for some nervous system calming down. And then once you start calming down, you can start to process and move through things, gently, slowly at first, but you can start. And I work with people working with the mind and the body to process things together, and finding that that's a really effective way to move through this stuff is, kind of using your mind to recognize the emotions, and using also your mind to dialogue with these emotions and figure out what they're trying to tell you, what kind of information they're trying to give you, what kind of answers or help they're trying to provide. And then moving through it by meeting that with action, bringing, whatever you can do to satisfy this want of this emotion. What is this emotion asking of you? And what can I do to meet it and satisfy it? So dealing with grief and processing trauma really starts with the self. You just have to start there. But once you continue to work on the self and move things through the body and create more safety and more safety in the body to have all these big emotions, you can start to slowly turn that focus outward into maybe first your friends and family, and then to your community, and maybe larger community like our Jewish community. Thinking about taking your intense emotions and what are they driving you to do? Are they driving you to do something righteous? Or maybe just having more chesed and kindness in your interactions with people. And so when we move that energy outward, we start to really, really move it and process it. And we engage with people and create connections and spirituality and, really, and tikkun olam. Another little kind of phrase I wanted to bring up is ahavat chinam, which is about Jews really coming together and loving each other. And so like back in the day of the temple being destroyed, some schools of thought believe that the temple was destroyed because we didn't have ahavat chinam. We were really split in our ideology, in our beliefs, and just really in the ways we interacted with each other and came together. We couldn't really come together very well. And some people believe that events with Hamas happened because of a lack of ahavat chinam. But to see the outpouring of the ahavat chinam afterwards is, the most moving thing ever. And really, I think, creating a lot of miracles. And so, today our Challah bake is ahavat chinam. We have all these different communities from Santa Fe coming together and creating this beautiful event. So, as an example of taking action and doing something with your grief, after my brother died, our family created a foundation in my brother's name to combat terrorism, first in smaller ways. We first created a curriculum, an anti-bullying curriculum that could be adopted in public schools, and then a more focused curriculum on recognizing radicalism, like an anti-terrorism curriculum. And more recently, we're really focused on what's going on in Israel and helping out where we can. So we have, at first there were so many, talk about ahavat chinam, there were so many soldiers that came and volunteered in Israel, which was amazing, but created a major shortage of supplies. And so we bought bulletproof vests and fireproof gear, and they had to use old tanks, and so they didn't have the proper cameras, so we bought cameras, and then personal items, toothpaste and underwear and sleeping mats, and now warm food, because they're creating military bases out of schools and places that aren't really military bases and don't have the facilities to really take care of the soldiers. So we're doing that in Israel. And I guess my vocation is kind of a whole devotion to helping others through really intense, terrible times. Thank you.
That was very brave of Amanda to share that story with us. So wow. Thank you, Amanda. So with that, we'll go to our next part of our program here, where we're going to actually make the blessings and say some prayers over our dough. I would like to call up Shelley Marks and Estelle Miller. Estelle is the president of Hadassah of Northern New Mexico, who did this beautiful event with us. Shelley relocated with her family to Santa Fe from Israel after October 7th. And Shelley has many very close friends who were personally, directly affected by October 7th. So we're going to honor Shelley with making the blessing. Everybody has a picture of a hostage right in front of you. So we ask, when we do the prayer and when we say our silent prayer, keep in mind that specific hostage. This is also a time for you to pray for yourself, for anything you need, your family, or anybody you know. We're going to take some time. We're going to have a silent prayer. So look at your hostage, look at their name, recite their name, and I'm going to give it over to Shelly.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להפריש חלה תרומה. הרי זו החלה. Now I will say a blessing for the hostages, תפילה לשבויים והחטופים. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו, שתחזק ותשמור ותנצור את אחינו בית ישראל, השבויים והשבויות, בעבור שאנו מתפללים בעבורם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, ישמורם מכל צרה וצוקה, ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשי ידיהם. יוציאם מחושך וצל מוות, וישיבה מהרה לחיק משפחותיהם, ונאמר אמן. Now everyone can follow with me. You have it also in English.
Hebrew and English on the bottom.
At the bottom.
In your booklets.
אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה, המקום ירחם עליהם, ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומאפלה לאורה, ומשעבוד לגאולה, השתאה בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. תודה. Thank you.
Our family, the whole house of Israel, who are in distress or in captivity, who stand either in the sea or on dry land, may the Almighty have mercy on them and take them out from narrowness to expanse, and from darkness to light, and from oppression to redemption now, swiftly and soon.
And now just take a few moments for your own silent prayer. So, as we know, we braid the challah, and everybody always asks, why do we braid challah? Why do we need to have a braid on our challah for Shabbos? So, the answer is we don't need to, but we do it, and the reason we do it is because this challah that we use is a symbol of the 12 challahs, the showbread that was in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash. We're going to divide your dough into two, because you're going to make 2 loaves. And when we're finished, there's a spray, a little spray on the table that we're going to use to spray those little pans. Everyone's going to get 2 pans. Look how beautiful those columns rose. Wow, very nice. I'm going to call on Wendy Steinberg from Chabad Shalom, who is going to show us how to braid challah.
And you don't want to roll it too much longer than the basket because it's going to fit in the little baking basket. And after you roll it, you can kind of just stretch it out too.
For those of you who have your 3 pieces, you're gonna just lay them right next to each other, 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna pinch. We're gonna pinch the top. Does that make sense? So that it keeps together. I want to show you what I'm doing. Can you guys see? Okay. We're going to take the right one, and we're just going to go over, and you want it to be pretty tight. You don't want there to be spaces in between. You want it to be pretty tight, okay? So then I'm going to take the one on my left side, and I'm going to bring it over. Then we're going to take the one on the left, and we're going to bring it over. And you're going to keep doing that until you get to the end. And when you get to the end, can you see? When you get to the end, you're going to pinch it lightly, and then you're just going to fold it really, really lightly under. Oh. And then where you pinched at the top, you're just going to kind of redo it a little bit so it actually looks like a braid.